Not many of us ever blow a fucking person's head off after a mass murder. And this poor bastard is scarred as well. Very scarred.
Phil Anselmo is referring to the cop who killed Dimebag's murderer. I'll be sharing more details about that in a few minutes.
I spoke with the police officer that blew this motherfucker who killed Dimebag, blew him away. The guy who killed him. And I asked him the hard question. I said, tell me, did he purposely shoot just Dimebag? He said yes. And I kind of choked up. And I thought for sure I knew what was going to come out of his mouth when I said, why? Why did he shoot Dimebag? He said they went back to his apartment, this murdering motherfucker. And he had notebook after notebook, stacked notebooks with all about writing how he was going to kill Pantera for ripping off his songs. Kill Pantera, Pantera. Not once in any of the motherfucking things did it name any of us specifically. And if it did, it was all four of us. But it was rare. And so I said to this cop, I said, so then what you mean is, had it been me playing with Down that night, this motherfucker would have come after me. And he just said, absolutely. Matter of fact, he was crying and all he could do was nod his head. Yes, absolutely.
That's from an interview Phil did with the High Times in the early 2010s.
What if, if Dimebag was still alive, I think there would have been an end to any rift. Dimebag was too much of a brother to carry a hate around with him, or anger. Vinnie Paul, he watched his brother get murdered. But he has pinned the guilt on the wrong guy. And I tell you what, my door is open. You hear me? I told you before, I come with love. That means that's a fucking open door, man. I doubt that Vinnie Paul will unlock his door. And I love the guy. I love the guy. I would love to have the fucking opportunity to apologize the way I apologize to my family, to my best friends, and everybody for fucking losing my mind for a period of my life that I fucking regret to this second. I'd love to have that opportunity. Therapy don't come out of a whiskey bottle, Jack.
Here, Phil discusses how he still lives with the pain of Dimebag's death on a daily basis.
That's something you live with every day. That's something I live with every day. From a peripheral, but fucking absolute heart rendering, and I live with this shit. Every other moment of my fucking life, I think about it.
This is actual footage of the night Dimebag died. He was on stage with Damage Plan in Columbus, Ohio on December 8th, 2004. This is him right here. A few minutes later, a schizophrenic person got on stage and shot Dimebag. This is the shooter, Nathan Gale. He was literally a diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. He believed Pantera had tried to steal his identity. There are many rumors as to why he wanted to kill Dimebag and or the other guys from Pantera. His exact motive is still unknown. There were a total of 5 deaths that night, including the shooter. This is the police officer who shot the shooter, Officer James D. Nigmeyer. I'll be doing another video focusing on exactly what happened that night. As per this video here, I'm going to focus predominantly on Phil Anselmo's thoughts about Dimebag's death, as well as some of the lighter-hearted moments with Phil and Dimebag.
Aimed at you, Cowboys from Hell. We're on the air. I have to fix the plumbing. I want to mow the lawn. Put in a pool next month. Home improvement. That's what they do records about.
That was from an interview Dimebag and Phil did with Much Music in 1993. The first clip was from 1990.
He was not just some guitar player. Darrell, my brother of 17 years. I want to say, bless his family and all of his close friends. And I never got a chance to say goodbye in the right way, and it kills me. And I'm so sorry.
That was from the video Phil released a few days after Dimebag's death. In that video, Phil shares his raw emotions on the subject. I'm going to show you the full video in a few minutes. But first, I want to show you a few more lighthearted clips of Dimebag. One of the best ways to honor someone's memory is to look at the good times.
Yeah, I'm not one of them cats that goes and picks something off the wall and thinks it's cool, throw it on there and look cool walking around with a tattoo. A lot of them, that's a great Southern Trendkill. There's Far Beyond Driven. That's a blackjack tattoo. There's Domination, my favorite song off of Cowboys From Hell. I could go for hours. There's the first tattoo I ever got. Cowboys From Hell with a Dimebag guitar right there. Seagum 7, my favorite whiskey. Here's 2 matches with fire coming off of it because I like to light shit on fire. And what I mean by that is not actually strike a match and burn buildings down, but mentally get shit going, light it up on fire, get it fucking moving. The tattoos, they're a way of expressing yourself. To some people, it's cool to pick a flower or a rose off the wall with a dagger stabbed through it with a drop of blood or something, whatever's cool to them, My shit, I just, relate to what I do in life and what I stand for and who the fuck I am,
That was from an interview he did in the year 2000 with Japanese journalist Hiro Arishima. This next clip is from 2004, just a few days after Dimebag's death. Here, Phil shares his raw emotions on the subject.
People want my reaction to what happened. This is not about me. This is about Dimebag Darrell. Purely Darrell. It's not about me or some motherfucking psycho that happened to destroy the most beautiful person. One of my best friends in the world. It was the heavy metal media that destroyed Pantera. Pantera's music changed people's lives, man. We weren't just some band.
Famously, Phil was not allowed to attend Dimebag's funeral. Following Pantera's bad breakup, of course, there was a lot of bad blood between Phil and Dimebag/Vinnie. After Dimebag's death, Phil tried to mend the fence, but Vinnie wanted nothing to do with him. Phil addresses being rejected from the funeral in this video.
I wish I could have gone to his funeral, but I have to respect his family's wishes. And they do not want me there. I believe I belong there. But I understand completely. I'm so sorry to his band members. I'm so sorry to the whole fucking world that loved Dimebag Darrell. Because let me tell you something. There was not one motherfucker like him. I'm so sorry to his family. And everyone else who was just senselessly killed in Columbus, Ohio. That's a town I love. That's a town I've played up 100 times. I love that town. That's where Dimebag Darrell got killed. This is very unique for me. And that's all I know. Just bless his family. Bless his friends. I love him. Like a brother loves a brother. Vinnie Paul, my other brother. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I would have taken a bullet for you, brother. Mark my words. Because I love you. And I love all of you. What is this world coming to? This has changed the world. I hope you all realize that now. This has changed the entire world. And this is the last you'll be seeing of me for a long time. I hope you're happy. Heavy metal music magazines. Media. I hope you're happy.
What Phil's referring to there is how the tension between him and Dimebag/Vinnie was exasperated by the media. The negative press added another layer to things. Tension between Phil and the rest of Pantera had been gradually building throughout the early to mid-90s, but the incident which really took things to a new level was the July 13th, 1996 incident. That night, Pantera had played a big show in Dallas, Texas. After the show, Phil Anselmo overdosed on heroin for the first time. As a matter of fact, he was clinically dead for several minutes. This incident is widely regarded as one of the breaking points which significantly damaged Phil's relationship with the rest of Pantera.
The second the band finds out the hard way that I'd been doing heroin, now there's no trust. Then there was no trust at all. That I understand. At the time, did I understand it? Not at all. Do I think it broke the band up? I think there was a lot of things that, it didn't help. I'll put it that way.
That was from Phil's 2012 interview with John Eddington. I'm going to show you now more of the interview he did with High Times in the early 2010s, where he talks about the night he overdosed and how he woke up in an ambulance.
That night was the most humiliating night of my fucking life. Because I flopped, I died in front of fucking all the Abbott brothers family, their friends, their family, people I'd known for 10 plus years. I woke up in the back of an ambulance, puked, and all these people are screaming at me, and I'm looking out of the back of the fucking doors, and I guess the girlfriend I had at the time was crying her eyes out. She's dead now. Drug overdose. 2 kids. Some husband. She died at 37. Anyway, she was about 20 at the time. And my security guard pushing people back, everyone's screaming, crying. And then got all these tubes fucking attached to me, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? And I start Phil Anselmoing off, and these motherfucking faceless restrainers fucking put me in my place, and some lady says, you better shut the fuck up. You just overdosed on heroin, Mr. Big Talk. You were dead for welcome back to life. You ought to be thanking the people around you. I was so fucking humiliated. That whole ambulance ride, the whole stay in the hospital in this Outer Limits-esque fucking room with one cot. It was almost black and white now in memory. Very strange. And this little old school telephone there. They gave me the receiver. It's my mother. She adores me. She's my mom. Immediately I wanted that fucking phone. I got it in that strange little fucking stay in the fucking hospital. Told her I was all right. She was aghast, distraught. So anyway, yep, that was the most humiliating fucking night of my life. And I did really well after that. Matter of fact, a day later, we were back on tour and we fucking played. So that does not justify me doing heroin. Tell you what, I relapsed 6 months, 8 months, 9 months later, maybe more than that or less than that. Drugs make you a mess. And either you're fucking tough enough to fucking suck it up, change your life, wake up, do your fucking stretch routine, work your fucking self out, be fucking active instead of laying around and fucking doping yourself up constantly. People know this and I know this, so fuck, man.
Now, before we get back to Dimebag, I want to share with you one more clip from that interview where Phil Anselmo talks about Lane Staley. Alice in Chains and Pantera both had their heroin problems, specifically when it came to Lane Staley and Phil Anselmo. However, tragically, unlike Phil, Lane did not beat his addiction. He died on April 5th of 2002 after years and years of a gradual decline. Now, it's long been debated who tried heroin first, Lane Staley or Demry Perot, Lane's longtime on-again, off-again girlfriend. As you'll hear from Phil in a moment, from what he knows, it was Demry who gave Lane heroin. In fairness to Demry, we don't know definitively if that's correct or not. In any case, Phil reflects on how Lane Staley changed after using heroin, and that it reminds Phil himself of what he was like when he was on heroin.
Lane was, when he was straight, he was engaging, strong, bigger guy than you think. We spent a Thanksgiving together. And he and I just went out by ourselves. We went to some shady bar. I forgot what fucking town it was. Pantera. We weren't even on tour with Alice in Chains. We just met. Alice in Chains was on tour supporting their first record, and we were on the Cowboys From Hell tour. So we both came out in 1990. They were on tour with Iggy Pop. We were on tour with fucking Prong and Mind Over 4 or something like that. Thanksgiving, we're at this odd place. Anyway. We got pretty drunk and decided to roll this bum. We saw him coming down the street, and I said, dude, let's roll him. So we ducked Tyson S style in between buildings and waited for the guy. And we weren't violent or anything, but we actually tackled him. And he didn't have anything, but he freaked out and was scared. And we started laughing. We're just fucking with you, Phil. Pulled him up and pushed him on his way. Poor guy. But he was fun, man. Next time I saw him was early 92. I had met his girlfriend, who eventually was the girl who ended up down in a hole. She turned him on. Too dope. I saw him at the Lollapalooza gig, and he was different, of course. In retrospect, once again, it brings up shame in my heart because I'm an engaging person. Like I say, man, I come with love. And the fact that at one point in my life, I was this zombie.
At the end of this video, I'm going to share with you what Jerry Cantrell had to say about Dimebag. Jerry Cantrell, of course, is a founding member and the lead guitarist from Alice in Chains. As a matter of fact, Jerry knew the guys in Pantera before Alice in Chains even existed. After hearing about Dimebag's death in December of 2004, Jerry said that he immediately got on a plane and went to Texas to be with Vinnie, as did Sean Kinney and Mike Inez, the drummer and bassist from Alice in Chains. Jerry said that Lane dying 2.5 years earlier meant that the guys in Alice in Chains had at least somewhat of an understanding of what Vinnie was going through, and they wanted to be there for him. This full Jerry Cantrell quote is at the end of the video. But right now, going back to the 2012 interview, the following is a clip of Phil where he discusses if he still thinks about Dimebag.
Every day. Every day of my life. Several moments a day. There's little mementos, platinum records upstairs, gold records next door at the friggin' jam room, guitar picks, little things. You know what? None of that matters because I'd probably still be thinking about him anyway. Great man, too. Good man. Great man. And when he wanted to be, he could be even greater. One of the biggest hearts I've ever been around, come across. Intense character. Spoke his own language. I hear his voice every day. Something, no matter what I do. Even when I don't feel like working out, tired of it, sick of the grind, I can hear him in the background. Get your ass up, Anselmo. Put in the hard work, you young son. It's worth it. Every day. To me, the story of Pantera will always be a good one, an inspiring one. There's been a lot of bands. We're not the first band to have a drug problem fall on us, an alcohol problem, and then death, murder. It makes me think about a guy like John Lennon. And when his life is celebrated, it's a beautiful thing a whole lot of times, most times, as it should be. And that's how I think about Dimebag. That's how I think about the years with Pantera. Those are years that should be celebrated, not the bitter, ugly ending. Was there a band falling out? Sure. We're not the first. Dimebag being murdered, can I come to grips with that? Hell no. How can you reason with insanity? You can't. And if you stay there long enough, trying to reason with this insanity, you sink. At least I do. I sink. I can't progress. I have chosen to take that proverbial step forward. I need to walk forward, man. Not sideways, not backwards. And in order to do that, you've got to move on. Doesn't mean out of sight, out of mind. We've been over that. Dimebag is in mind. Pantera is in mind. Every day, I just choose, because I feel like it's healthy for me, to look at the good stuff. Because there's plenty of it. On a percentage of the body of whatever the fuck happened to Pantera from here to the end. I mean, it's gotta be 95% fucking awesome, great story. And I know the weight of tragedy. I know this. Very clear on it. Once again, I'm taking the John Lennon route. It's the songs that you leave behind that are forever. Death is just death. That's all it is. No matter how it comes and grabs, it's gonna get us all. But Pantera, especially, every day I gotta look at the good. And I know the critics or whatnot can say, well, Phil just is not choosing to look at the bad because he's in the equation as far as the bad goes a whole lot, so don't look that way. That's bullshit.
Believe me, I've taken a good, cold, long, hard fucking stare in the mirror. I know who the fuck I am. I know the mistakes I've made. Therefore, I can move on. And whether that makes sense to anyone else, I could give a fuck. I know what I'm saying, and I have moved on. And Pantera will be a fond memory. Dimebag will always be. You can't take away those beautiful memories. He's going to be a fantastic memory in my heart till I hit the dirt. And when it comes to Pantera and healing, all I can say is my door is wide fucking open. I still think to this day, you know, when you're on the inside with a guy like Dimebag Darrell, I'll even go as far to say he's underrated because I don't think he even showed one side of himself, really. You know, we were writing heavy metal songs, and sure, he could do the blistering leads and all that whatnot. He's an excellent lead player, excellent rhythmic player. But the guy could play anything, really. You know, I have bragged about it before, but if those guys wanted to sound exactly like a country and western band, just for a couple seconds, they could just break into it, and man, it sounded authentic. If he wanted to play in he could do anything, man. He could do anything. And if he wasn't sure of the genre that he was going for, but he had an idea, his take on it would be interesting. You know, it's like, whoa. And he was a master of a 4-track, and he was a songster. He loved singing. He loved to sing, you know, much to everybody else's chagrin sometimes. But it was funny, man. But he loved singing, too. So he was a great guitar player, and so much more than just a heavy metal guitar player, especially if you grew up with him right there on the inside. He just jack of all trades, man, you know, as a musician. Unbelievable. I'm not going to name drop any bands, but there's a lot of bands out there, modern bands, that you can hear where Darrell's guitar tone has been mimicked as best as possible. And Vinnie's drum tones have been mimicked. There's a lot of tough-ass lead singers out there when they speak and address the audience. I guess I've been used as a prototypical what's cool to say to the audience type guy, whatever you call it. Good. Keep on chugging away, youngsters. I did the same thing, man. You know, music is one just gigantic influence, you know, from decade to decade to decade, to genre to genre to genre. Everybody has their own damn influences, and, you know, such is music.
In a few minutes, I'm going to share with you several videos of Phil and Dimebag doing interviews together. And in about 30 minutes, I'm going to share with you another clip of Phil where he discusses in deeper detail his strained relationship with Vinnie. But first, the following is from 2013 when Phil spoke to Loudwire about Dimebag's legacy.
He lived it. He breathed it. He meant every fucking second of it, and he could do it all. He had taste. He had this thing called soul. And I'm from New Orleans, Jack. When you make a note wiggle, beautiful vibrato, he had all that. Then he had that damn whammy bar, which at the time might have been considered hackneyed, and somehow he brought it back to life and made it do different things. He can make his guitar talk. He brought different type of heavy tone as well. He was very responsible for tone. Very particular. Fought for it for a long time. Not happy for the longest time. And, you know, each record, strive for more and more and more and more. But that can be said of the whole band, man. I've never to this day played with tighter musicians in my fucking life. And Dimebag, everybody knows about Pantera. Everybody knows everything about Pantera was to get to whiskey. And to get that whiskey drunk, Jack. And Dimebag was an extremist. He would start drinking at 6 p.m. sometimes and not finish till noon the next day. Wake up about 6 again that evening, knowing we have a gig. He'd come in with the shakes, eat a little soup and a piece of bread, get stretched out, and start hitting the whiskey again. Boom, 8 o'clock every fucking night. Come on, motherfucker, let's get one in you. And I'd be like, oh, I could have 103 fever. No. And he go, then let's have a double. And he meant it. And he would be relentless until you tip the damn whiskey up. One of his best quotes was, come on, man, I know you're sick, man, but you hit this whiskey, man, it's like the country and western days, man. You get better. The country and western days. He had his own language once again. I think he meant like the old Wild West when people died at 25. Yeah, and I was like, Darrell, whiskey is not going to help me right now. But he was a purveyor. And aside from that, my point is, no matter how hungover, no matter what he did, somehow when he would get on that fucking stage, it would click and he would be a machine and he could fly, actually, and not miss a note. I've seen his headstock broken off, not miss a note. Muscle and passion. Motherfucker had it all.
In this next interview with Dimebag and Phil, they discuss making Walk, Vulgar Display of Power, Pantera's tension with Megadeth, and more. Right after this clip, I'm going to show you another clip of Dave Mustaine discussing Dimebag. This is from 1992 with Headbangers Ball.
The song Walk, that's about, when I was on tour, or any of us are on tour, we go out and we leave and we can't call everybody all the time anymore. We can't drink beer with the same buddies. You can't do that anymore. This is our job. This is what we do. This is what we love. This is what we've worked for years on end. And then you get back into town and all your friends who you thought were your friends are all snickering behind your back and talking about this and that and just, Phil's not cool anymore and Darrell's just a
we really changed.
star. We we've really changed. And that's what Walk's about. Walk's about, it's like show some respect and just walk on, man, because you've done talk behind my back. Here's my face now. Talk to me like that now. Because when they see you, they're like, hey, cool, dude, good to see you, man, right on. And and that's not too cool.
Cut.
No.
That ain't cool at all.
In the lyrics, it does seem that you're very critical of the world. Do you hope that you can change anything through lyrics or music?
Not really change anything, just enlighten people a little bit, But I'm no preacher. I'm just singing songs that make me feel. Writing songs that we feel, that make us feel one way or another. And that's what,
It's like not trying. It's just like letting it happen.
Yeah, letting it happen, Okay, let's think of this, we don't think very much.
It works. It works. Most of the lyrics certainly are based on anger and frustration, but it is kind of tempered with other emotions. Do you find that the best way of expressing yourself writing songs?
Well, everybody always find it really easy to find, the angry and the aggressive and the frustrated parts. But, to me, it's like a therapy thing. And it seems like it's almost like not a story really, but at the end of each song, there's a positive thing that comes out of each one of them. They're positive to me. The lyrics on Vulgar all are very relevant to anybody who's listening,
Absolutely. Your last album, Cowboys From Hell, was very raw, very aggressive. For a vulgar display of power, how did you try and eclipse that?
We just did it like we do it live. We just wrote the song. We just wrote 11 songs, and they just turned out like that. We had come up with the title previous to that, Vulgar Display of Power, because we were so pumped to do the next record. We go, man, we're going to write this heavy record, man. We know it's going to be heavy just because we had spoken to each other about, ideas of the riffs and the songs and stuff. And we go, man, this sucker's going to work. And it just
had to live up to the name. Vulgar Display of Power. Yeah.
It was co-produced by Vinnie, right?
Right. That's Vinnie, the drummer. He's real good at that. Him and Terry work together in studio really hard.
It's Terry Date.
Okay. On the album, there are some kind of mellower moments. Was it the intention that these would make the heavier parts all the more intense and shocking?
It works that way, but
Dynamics.
Yeah. Dynamics. Sure. It definitely wasn't trying to be a hit single or something.
No, we just write songs. Period.
But it gives some light and shade, doesn't it?
Well, we're not the type of band that's just hooked on this one thing
damn
either.
thing, yeah.
Like the next record that we do is like we'd like to tell everybody, it's not going to be Vulgar Display of Power Part 2. It's going to be a new Pantera album. And with keeping that in mind, it's going to be the heaviest record of '93 also, or '94, whenever the damn thing comes out.
Now, you guys describe your sound as power groove. That was how you described it on Cowboys From Hell. How have you developed that for a vulgar display of power?
Well,
Heavy
we
power grooves.
we write songs that move people instead of going 100 million miles per hour. Instead of following anything, really, you know, we just write songs that will move you, you know, and make you want to dance, man. I'm not talking about, for those of you who don't know, we're not talking about ballroom waltzing. We're talking about
Banging.
dancing. You know what I'm saying? You punks out there know what I'm talking about.
So when you've been on stage, are you like really, really psyched, or are you like emotionally, physically drained?
On stage, just depending on
When you finish
depending on the day, on the gig. A lot of times, you know, so we're really hard on one another as a whole, you know, and also we're hard on each other individually because, you know, we always want to do our best, you know, put forth 150% every night, and that's usually the main topic after a show, you know, just how we did. And if everything clicked and happened, man, we're usually ready to drink some beer afterwards. Thank you very much.
After I've already had about a 6.
How do you find the European audience compared to the American audience?
It's tough to say anything really about it because we're playing to, like, you know, we're the opening band. You know, people come to see Megadeth, but now more so, you know, they see Pantera people in the audience and stuff. I think in order to pass a true judgment, we're gonna have to do our own thing, you know, play our own shows. But so far, it's
ain't been
great.
bad, man.
No, it hasn't been bad at all.
You guys, you played a big show in the US with Megadeth a little last year, I think it was. Did that lead to this support stuff on the European tour?
Yeah, it did. In the past, you know, we had bad blood and stuff like that. We played the show together and mellowed things out, you know, kissed and made up, so to speak. And here we are on this tour. Everything's really smooth and cool, man.
Well.
Like the other night, we played with Megadeth. And it was like a smaller place, small club, and it was killer, man. We miss those. We miss those.
You're going to finish the Megadeth tour. It's actually quite a long tour, isn't it? And then what's going to happen for you next?
We go back to the States. We go out with Trouble for 3 weeks. Take Christmas off.
As mentioned, there was a bit of tension between Megadeth and Pantera in the early 90s. However, there was no one particular incident which caused the tension. It was more of a clashing of personalities, particularly between Phil Anselmo and Dave Mustaine. There was also a bit of an age gap. Dave Mustaine, for instance, is roughly 7 years older than Phil. As mentioned here by Phil, the tension between the two bands did squander out by 1992. However, over the next couple of years, tension sprung up again between the two bands, particularly between Phil and Dave. Thankfully, though, the situation never boiled over into something ugly. Now, interestingly, as some of you may know, in the late 80s, Dave Mustaine actually called Dimebag and asked if he'd be interested in joining Megadeth. Here's Dave discussing this with Heavy Consequence in 2020.
Darrell, he goes, "Can I bring my brother?" And I was like, "Well, who's your brother, bro?" He goes, "Vinnie Paul." "Wow, what do you fucking mean? My brother." And I thought, okay, hey, who's Vinnie Paul? "Oh, it's his brother, the drummer." And I got back on phone and said, "Well, we already got a drummer." And he goes, "Well, then okay, go." And I went, "Oh, fuck, are you kidding me?" I said, "Our drummer's really good." And he goes, "Well, so is my brother. See you later, Mustaine." And I went, "Okay, see you later." And then I saw him again, and we'd gone out on tour with them. We've had good times, bad times. You know, there was a time when I was over in Holland, and Darrell had tattooed one of my lyrics on his leg.
The Megadeth lyric Dimebag had tattooed on his leg was Black Tooth Grin. That lyric is from the song Sweating Bullets, one of the big tracks from Megadeth's album Countdown to Extinction. That album was released in 1992, the same year as Vulgar Display of Power. From September to December of 92, Pantera was an opening act for Megadeth as part of the Countdown to Extinction tour. According to Dave Mustaine, Dimebag would get a tattoo of something that reminded him of every tour he did. In this case, Dimebag tattooed the Megadeth lyric. As some of you may know, Dimebag would go on to have his own signature cocktail called Black Tooth Grin. As a matter of fact, there's a line of whiskey called Black Tooth Grin honoring Dimebag. Now, going back to Phil and Dimebag, the following is more from the interview they did together in 1993 with Much Music.
We're not just a basic thrash band. Stop, go, stop. We have parts. We write songs. And I think lyrically, we're way more in touch than the average band. So it's up to us to not only put out a great record, But to do one that's will still be cool 10 years from now, hopefully. Relax, you know? Just because we sell more records than you and Pantera, they're not original. They sound like this band and this band and this band. So that's the new brand of crap we've been faced with. But you know what? That's just a mere 10% of all of the rest that we see every night from the fans and the people who come out to the shows and support us, because that makes 200% over our heads. You know what I'm saying? It rises us to a new level every night. So it's all worth it.
Do you think that you can still be a real hard, angry band in light of commercial success?
I think it's all has to deal with putting things into perspective. You can write an aggressive song about, you know, like I said before, you know, like flowers or, you know, or
Fixing the pipes
in my house, you know. You can write aggressive music no matter what. But I think I know as a lyricist what the kids are going to want to hear. I don't think we can really write a song that doesn't sound aggressive.
Do you think that's negative at all, especially for the kids?
No way, man. Because I think the negative thing to do would be to put out a record that the kids would not be able to identify with. You know, things are going to extremes. You know, it's lately. You know, like Skid Row's last record was definitely heavier than their first record. Everything's getting more extreme. Even what's commercially acceptable today. You know, even a band like Nirvana. I'm just saying in general, man, that music itself is moving towards a more aggressive thing. We never consciously set out to be the heaviest band in the world that's commercially acceptable. We just wrote songs and we played our show live like we do every night, and it's paid off for us.
With this next clip, I'm going to rewind it back a bit further to an interview they did in Toronto in 1990. Phil and Dimebag discuss on the TV show Power Hour how they write music, their tattoos, the Cowboys record, and more.
Aimed at you, Cowboys from Hell. We're on the air.
When you write your songs, they're written intentionally to be performed live.
Sure.
So is that important?
Oh, that's where, you know, expend all our, you know, everybody will say, yes, that's where we expend our aggression, you know, but we really, you know, anybody who sees us, you know, we're energetic and we're full of hell, you know, and it's, that's what it's about. You gotta catch that groove live, man, make those people move, man, and if they don't, then they may as well just come up on stage and jump off the middle, you know?
And we've had guys in here before, like, with tons of tattoos. I mean, the guys from Circus of Power, they get tattoos everywhere and stuff, but not very often do we get guys with them on their head. Now, I can understand, we get a shot of this one here, which is Cowboys From Hell, which is the album and the single from you guys, but I mean, what does strength symbolize? I mean, why the word strength?
I'm into heavy self-belief and strength and power within, you know, and that's my bag of tricks right there, you know. I'm into that. Strength.
Can we see the other side there? Come on.
All right.
Just show us.
Cowboys tat.
Another Cowboys tat over here. Right into your head.
Ain't I cute?
That ain't gonna leave.
No, that's right.
We think of bands, metal bands, we don't think of them as coming from Texas. I mean, we
ZZ Top.
Yeah, that's true, but we don't think of bands like, you know, we think of like Los Angeles, like bands leave Texas, go to Los Angeles, leave Texas, go to New York, and then they start, like,
There's a bunch of those out there, ain't there? Whole bunch of those out there.
Tons.
How many from Texas?
I don't know, how many?
I don't know, there's a couple.
Flip the coin, you got a coin?
Flip the coin, there's a few. But no, man, you got to see our fans in Texas, man. It's like, why should we leave, man? Rabid, they kill each other.
Check it out, like the Cowboys flick.
Yeah, Cowboys From Hell video. That's like actual footage from the shows, you know, and it's, you know, that wasn't nothing, you know. He was like, hey, welcome to the video shoot. Boom!
Oh.
You know?
What's the Toronto audience going to see tonight?
Aggressiveness, sweat, vulgarity, entertainment, a freak show.
A little bit of that. Lit him up.
Are you guys working on stuff for the new record already?
Shit, we already got two tracks already.
Really?
And we got some time off coming up.
Now, when you actually do get time off, what kind of stuff do you guys like to do?
Boxing. It's my favorite sport, man.
Serious?
Holyfield and Douglas is coming up. Tyson's fighting soon. I like the smart Gore.
Like the 4-track.
He writes all these crazy songs and stuff.
4-track.
Drink. I like to drink a little. You know?
Oh, yeah, just
drink a little.
Hang out.
You know.
Good deal.
Yeah,
friends.
And boxing. Anything like violence in a way. Hockey fights.
So does all that stuff then manifest itself in your writing and your performance?
It finds its way a little bit, I'd say.
But I mean, I don't spit blood on stage or anything, and I don't wear a pair of gloves. But I mean, you know, it's all energetic, you know.
This next interview is also from 1990. Here they discuss Cowboys on Headbangers Ball.
Being that you guys are from Texas and the album is called Cowboys From Hell, a little bit about you guys? The furthest thing I would think from Cowboys, but
That's what it's about. It's like yikes. It's like Cowboys from Hell. It's like tongue in cheek. You know, it's like, what's wrong with this picture? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you figure a Texas band is like ZZ Top, stuff like that, Southern rock or something, and then you got a band like us, you know, not exactly thrash, but definitely not.
Chet Atkins.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
As far as the sound, I mean, other than being a fast, aggressive band, you've got a good voice. I mean, you can scream, but you've also got a nice voice.
You got a nice
Now,
voice on him.
to see Pantera on the road, when you guys play in Texas, is there a good kind of hardcore scene in Texas?
Rips. It's ridiculous, man.
Pretty crazy?
Yeah.
Great.
So you guys like playing live, don't you?
It's my favorite
there's
thing.
some active audience participation.
That's what our shows are about, you know. We feel that we're the closest band in the world to our crowd. And anyone who's been to our shows and had a good time at our shows, which is, yeah, it's true, man. You know, we love it, man.
You also, I read, was produced by Terry Date, who also produced Soundgarden's record.
Oh, yeah.
Did he go at this a different way? I mean, when you guys look for a producer, what do you say? I want to sound like...
Put it this way, when we talked to Terry, he had the same drive and attitude that we did towards this record.
Terry Date produced 4 of the band's 5 classic albums: Cowboys, Vulgar Display, Far Beyond Driven, and The Great Southern Trendkill. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a clip from my interview with Pantera producer Sterling Winfield and Pantera engineer Tim Kimsey, where they talk about Pantera's relationship with Terry Date. For those of you who may be curious which album Sterling produced, he was the co-producer on Pantera's final album, Reinventing the Steel. He was also a co-producer on Damage Plan's only album, Newfound Power. Now, in this next clip, we're going to go to 1991, where Phil and Dimebag give an interview about police violence, playing in Russia, and more.
Texas, man. They're Nazi cops.
We still gotta go to court, dude.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think about that?
For assault on an officer.
Yeah, just totally backwards.
Yeah, the cop is kicking his ass. I'm supposed to sit there and watch.
He's standing there like
shit.
this in a parking lot about to leave, fucking trampled from the backside,
On
totally
his back. A
blindsided.
rookie, this 20-year-old fucking
Blue
punk
chunks.
cop who got picked on all his life, so he went and got himself a badge, and now he's the man. And he can fucking scorn us wild living rock and roll freelance,
Free-loving motherfuckers.
Fuck you, you know? Dumbass. You know?
It's really pretty fucking hilarious if you think about it.
Stupid.
When have they helped you, man?
Never. To
Never
serve and
fucking.
protect.
By the law in
My-
the state.
Sure, give us a ticket. My mom got jumped. They ran. Where were you, asshole, writing tickets to me, the hardworking citizens, man? I'm making a buck like anyone else. Pulling in different directions because of color of skin is ridiculous, I feel. And stereotyping and stuff like that. It's just bad blood, bad shit. When the full reality of it all is, you know, when this country, and I'm talking about American pride, USA pride, when this country goes to war, they don't just get the black soldiers to go and fight the battle. They don't just get the white soldiers. They get Mexicans, blacks, whites, Orientals, all from the States, Indians, everyone. And that's the truth.
Well, you guys coming from the South, you still see a lot of that happening down there. People just not willing to.
It's everywhere,
Yeah,
man.
it's not just in the
It's
South.
not just the South. You ought to play Cincinnati. Just the racial thing is painful, man. You look around. Pantera shows, there's blacks, whites, etc., etc. And everyone's welcome. Russians hating Americans and the competition between the two wasn't relevant at all, man. The mere fact that we were Americans and we were identified as, you know, people in bands and stuff coming over to jam for them and stuff, they were nothing but respectful.
Respectful as hell.
And they were nice and they were willing and they were just, you know, they just wanted to know. They want what we have as Americans.
Right.
You know, when I got off the plane, I left from the airport and saw Six Flags, you know, over Texas. And I thought to myself, man, no one in Russia is even, maybe they've seen pictures of it, but they've never been to a place like this. Made me feel kind of bad because they're starved for entertainment, man.
They're starved for food, for that matter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, really.
It's still communism, you know. They don't know
It's
how
not
to
going to
break.
change overnight, that's
right,
for sure.
Exactly. You know, just the mere fact that they brought these bands over was a taste of the Western culture and the taste of, you know, what it could be like, you know, and the matter of fact that the kids were breaking free and
starting to have a good
letting
time for a
loose,
change.
a
Right?
lot of kids got bashed.
Yeah.
And I mean bashed severely.
Well, like, what would they be doing to get bashed?
Enjoying
starting
themselves.
doing this shit, you know.
They get fucked up. People, they had vodka bottles. They were out there for 3 days, you know. There's no toilets. They piss on the ground. They shit on the ground. They fucking drink, go with it. Fucking nothing to eat, so they're drinking. So you know they're gonna
fucking
get
nothing up for real,
loaded.
though. You know?
Yeah, well, all it was, and you see this happen in a lot of shows in America. When you get the military there pushing everyone around, the kids are gonna rebel and throw their bottles and want to fight.
Fucking A.
If you get a big, dopey, steroid bastard bouncer throwing a 14-year-old kid around on stage, every kid at audience is going to start spitting. Our songs, everyone says, oh, yeah, y'all are so angry. You know, this new record, it's just so angry. But it's in a fucking positive direction. I'm not fucking yelling about irrelevant shit. I'm not yelling about Satan. I'm not yelling about fucking whatever. I'm yelling about stuff that matters to us and to most of the crowd that surrounds us, you know. It makes a fuck, you know. Not the long-haired, untouchable on the stage playing our metal axes for the children of the night. We're not like that, man.
You know, some youngsters that probably don't understand what we're doing, but we're giving them this freak show, so they're like entertained. And then
you got the hardcore
got
fans,
the hardcore dudes coming over the balcony.
Europeans are notorious for ignoring opening bands and stuff like that, and maybe even, you know, dissing them. However,
we hammered the piss out of them.
We hammered the crap out of them.
They didn't forget who we were, that's for sure.
No, they didn't.
We'll go back, we'll do it right this time. We'll play clubs and stuff. Not that we did it wrong last time, but I think people understand what we're doing. We'll do clubs and
at least if we go over there by ourselves, you know, the crowd that comes out is going to come to see us,
what we're
you know.
doing, right.
So I mean, that's the way to do it.
This next part is from the interview Pantera did in 2000 with the Japanese journalist Hiro Arishima. On March 21st of 2000, Pantera released their last ever album, Reinventing the Steel. Of course, at the time, no one knew this would be their last album. In this interview, the band talks about how they write songs, their approach to music, and more.
Some songs we write and they're done, and I go, wow, we didn't even think about putting a solo in that song. Guess it didn't need it. Fuck it, you know. But dude, I love to play lead guitar, and yeah, that's one of our power elements, you know, and we do it still. We still do that. Yeah, we sing. Yeah, we got riffs, not just ching, 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 you know. Don't get me going.
The tempo things for us had, when we were writing a song, usually whatever we start at feels natural. We're not a band that starts on writes a song and goes, let's see how it sounds faster. Let's see how it sounds slower. It feels right, you know, right when you start, you just go, that's it, or you go, it's a little quick, and you bring it down. But it's not one thing where, like, a lot of record producers will go and see a band and go, that's a cool song, but you need to bring it way down tempo-wise, or you need to really kick it up to have some life. You know, it always feels natural to us. And if it doesn't, we'll toss it, start on something else. If Phil could come in, say, I got this idea for this hardcore up-tempo song, you know, we're going to go. And we just take off from there, and he'll go, no, that ain't it. And we'll start putting this in. You know, everybody pieces everything together, and everybody is very critical of each other's parts, you know, all the way down to the way the guitar player is bending the notes, or where the bass comes in, where the bass stops, how the song is going to be tuned. You know, some of them are tuned down, some of them are tuned up. It could start with the drums. There's a lot of songs. Primal Concrete Sledge, it started with just a drum group. Becoming is just a drum group. You know, and I sit down and played it, and the guys went, wow, and then they started coming up with their parts around it. You know, so there's a lot. It could come from anywhere.
Usually Darrell comes up with the primary riffs, and from there, we all put in our 2 cents. Phil might have a riff that he's thinking about, or, you know, Darrell will come up with a skeleton riff, and we'll all listen to it and go, no, that part's good, let's try it this way. You know, so it takes the 4 of us collaborating with each other for the final product. So if there has been a lot of, you know, stuff with bass riffs that'll turn into another part of the song, everybody together is a collaboration, because it takes the 4 of us to be Pantera.
There's a bunch of parts that you could actually that could be considered a guitar solo that aren't really just a wide out free for all, you know, all this shit, you know what I mean? We're going for power, you know, and if the song calls for it, I do them.
Here, they discuss making an album without their longtime producer, Terry Date. As mentioned, Terry produced Cowboys, Vulgar Display, Far Beyond Driven, and the Great Southern Trendkill.
Vinnie is an engineer, and he's co-produced every record with Terry. We just, it just felt it was time for us to go out on our own.
I have full and complete confidence in Vince and Don behind the board. There's no doubt in my mind, and I think the proof is there. I think it's devastating sound. I love this. Is my favorite sounding record, Reinventing the Steel.
Sterling. Now he co-produced with us on that too. It's just we wanted something very, very raw, something that was. There's no doubt we'll have fun playing these songs live. There's not overlaid vocals and overlaid guitars and stuff where you really, have to slim it back to play it live. We wanted it to be very representative of us, and the Great Southern Trendkill was a very attitude-oriented record. It was all just about how loud, how noisy, how disturbing could this record be. It came out in '96 when heavy metal here in the States in particular was at an all-time low for this decade. Nobody even wanted the term heavy metal associated with them except us. And if you hated heavy metal, we wanted you to hate it that much more by putting our record on and listen to how obnoxious it was. And this record, we wanted it to be all song-oriented. It's about the songs, the best songs. It's not about, it has some attitude to it, but the songs were important. We wanted the songs that have good structure, good grooves. Grooves were really important on this album. And, Phil really wanted to do more vocally as a singer as far as melodies go and just using everything that he's able to do instead of just, balls to the wall screaming on everything.
Back to basics. Old school heavy metal.
We worked with Terry Date in the past, and he is the best producer. And he's, for one, so busy, and for two, we're at a point where we pretty much know what the hell we got going and stuff. That's how it usually goes. But fucking as far as us controlling everything, fuck yes, we know exactly what we want, and it ain't super easy. But at the same time, at least you have your own ass to kick if it don't turn out like you like,
I've always been involved in the business side of everything, try to make sure all of us are taken care of properly. There's, keep all the loose ends tied up, so to speak. I guess the easiest way for me to put it is that I'm probably the most responsible guy out of all the other guys, and they all count on me. So I don't really feel the pressure. It's just kind of like something that's been part of what I've been doing ever since I've been part of this band. And it's an important part. The guys count on me for that, so.
I think we definitely went back to the roots. I think a lot of times in some of our songs, especially in Far Beyond Driven, which is still a great record, Trendkill, we had put too many parts into the song. Wanted to simplify and make it, make every song that we had, just make it simple and killer. Because that's in the past that, everybody looks back to say the Vulgar Display of Power and says, well, that's the record that people really looked on as quintessential Pantera. That's just the way these songs evolve. We wanted to make them not shorter, but just more powerful with the main riffs instead of putting a whole bunch of parts and being too technical with it. And in some of the songs, we did come back and simplify a little bit more because we could tell of the way that each song was coming into the record that all these songs will kick your ass.
Now, going back to Phil Anselmo's 2012 interview, this is the part now where Phil talks about his relationship with Vinnie Paul and Dimebag's death. He says he would be open to reuniting with Vinnie despite all the history of bad blood they have. He actually says he tried to reach out to Vinnie several times. Unfortunately, we know that this reunion never happened.
Vince, Paul, and I are about as opposite as two people can get. But you put us in the same room together with the sole purpose of writing music, we could jive that way. Vinnie Paul watched his own flesh and blood get shot multiple times right in front of his very eyes. I am in no way, shape, or form going to test nor judge what he is feeling inside. But I lost a brother too. But does the fact that I lost a brother too mean that he needs to act any other way than he's acting? I'm not sure. But I'll say this. I've said in numerous interviews that I think it would be so healthy for me, for Vince, and Rex to sit down and not have this gigantic separation to where there is absolutely no chance at healing. That to me feels unhealthy. To have a loose end in life, that feels wrong in my heart. Once again, I cannot think for Vince. Do I wish he'd want to sit down and speak with me? Of course. Dying for the guy to sit down with me. Matter of fact, I've even written in emails, Vince, if it's just this wall of anger and you feel like you need to just beat me up, I'll let you just beat me up. As long as we can sit down after and talk. Whatever it takes, man. So, it is what it is. And I think, just to wrap it up, really, my door is always open. That's all I can say. Vinnie Paul wants to call this house, wants to get in touch with me, wants to talk about anything. If he wants to scream at me, whatever, he knows where to find me. And I wish it could happen. I really do. I really, really do. So anyone else out there that wishes Pantera would reunite or whatnot, better get in line. Because, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about this very fucking thing.
In this next clip, Phil talks about how the guys in Pantera were already growing apart from each other. Yes, his addiction made things worse, but Phil discusses how they were already growing distant anyways.
When I think about me projecting this ugly version of Phil and the distance that it caused the band, at the same time, we were growing into different people too, no matter what. I'm not a gambling, casino-loving guy, and it just does nothing for me. It's just not my thing. Whereas the rest of the guys gambling every night, party, and I couldn't do these things. I couldn't do it. I couldn't just hang out anymore. There was no hanging out for me, man. And the reason why? There was a knife driving into my spine. I couldn't do it. So, I guess the last thing I could touch on was I always felt like they like the guys in the band resented my condition. And there was a great percentage of my emotion where I understand where they're coming from. But then again, there was a misunderstanding too. It's like I tell people, you don't know chronic pain till you feel it for yourself and other people. You can describe your pain all day long, knife in the back, et cetera, et cetera. But if they can't feel it, they're not going to understand what the fuck you're talking about. So there was this lack of understanding from them, and I guess I resented that. Every excuse, every reason I gave for over drinking or pain pills or anything like that completely goes out of the fucking window the second the band finds out the hard way that I'd been doing heroin. That, my attitude on tour, definitely wore on the other guys, for sure. Especially when they looked to me to be the willful guy, the stand-up guy, the tough guy of the band, whatever, the muscle. I was ashamed, I never wanted to be seen as a symbol of weakness. It was totally counterproductive to my existence, therefore the band's existence, because whatever you feel on the inside, you're going to project on the outside. You gotta understand, man, when you are wounded and the only escape is either sleep or some sort of narcotic, that is a shit existence, man. It sucks. I'll tell you. Because when you open your eyes, and the second you open your eyes, you feel that knife right in the base of your spine. It's like, damn it, I don't even want to be here. I don't even want to wake up, much less get up, stretch it out, and get on a fucking stage tonight. I was, in a lot of ways, I needed a fucking break. And yet, with this drug intake, they're not called painkillers for no reason. The more you take, the more it erodes the will, kills your true self, numbs it down, your emotions, everything, numb down. And I am a willful person. But at this point in my life, I was very vulnerable, scared, easily coerced, weak-minded, completely different person. Such is the synthetic bullshit that drugs leave behind in your system, the residue. You know, no one thinks about that. It's a no-win situation for anyone, you know?
Another thing adding to the tension within Pantera was the time Phil was spending on his side projects Down and Superjoint. Particularly during the final years of Pantera when tension was at its highest, Phil's commitment to music outside of Pantera didn't help the situation. Phil himself acknowledges that here.
By all accounts, there's no fucking way I should have been. If I was going to do a side project, doing a record would be one thing, but there I was touring Superjoint Ritual, and that's where the erosion of the will comes in. Can't say no. Hey man, we got this chance to do gigs. Where's Phil? Annihilated the next room. Go ask him if he wants to do some gigs. I don't care. Sure, whatever. No will. I was weak. And I could see where being in Pantera, watching this guy who was supposedly too injured to continue with Pantera, sit here and do gig after gig with this fucking other band, I'd be pissed off too. And I get it. And the whole idea behind this side band, Superjoint Ritual, was to get my ass out of the arenas and go feel what it's like to be back in the clubs again with that intimate gathering. And I love all that. You know, that's fine and dandy, but I shouldn't have been doing gigs to begin with. Do I have a excuse? Yeah, here's my excuse. I had no fucking will. I was an eroded, big, giant pussy being yanked around. There's no good fucking reason to stick a needle of heroin in your arm. And I did it. I think it was a mentality of, this can't kill me, this can't stop me, this cannot even get me the way it does other people because I'm this superhuman monster and I'm indestructible. Well, that was bullshit. It couldn't even addict me. That fell false. No, there's no good reason for anyone doing dope. But it was a progressive ladder of, once again, you know, the pain medications, the grinding road, and how quickly you can go from 1 pill to 5 pills to 10 pills. There is a ladder, a gradual ladder of destruction going on inside of me. Not many people can come back from that. Not many people can cold turkey a situation like that, but they have. You know, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's done it. I'm not the only guy that's quit it, come back to it, quit it, come back to it, and failed over and over and over till you get it fucking right, you know, till you say that's enough. And another thing that was frustrating for me was I was searching out any doctor that could possibly help me. I remember being on tour, being riddled with drugs, but still getting up in the morning, getting in a cab, going to see some specialists who looked at me like I was out of my fucking mind. And then you bring up the word injured back, you bring up the word ruptured disc, and they look at you even colder like, you're fucked, man. I damn well know from experience that neurology had not come. It had not advanced far enough. So these doctors basically, who at the time I felt like I was getting shafted, they were basically trying to tell me, man, if we give you this surgery, you're going to be ruined. Back surgery is, especially the type of back surgery that you need, the percentage of people bouncing back for real was very low percentage. And like I say, the 90s, there was no stopping anything.
Here, Phil discusses his road to recovery and how quitting alcohol in particular was also important.
You know, after I had major back surgery in 2006, I was warned ahead of time, you know, this is going to be with you the rest of your life, and to have any quality of life that can be considered a good quality of life, you're going to have to work for it. And I embraced physical therapy, full throttle. I decided I did not want that jail cell in my life anymore. And like I say, when I embraced this stuff, I embraced it big time. It took 5 good years before I could say, wow, life is different. because every morning, no matter what your day consists of, there's a stretching routine that, to me, for my life, it's mandatory. You gotta get blood flowing. You gotta, there's still some uncomfort, bad knees, whatever. I busted both my knees on stage, man. Pain is as relevant as you let it be. There is such a thing as a mental callus, as I like to call it, It toughens up. If I was thinking about it right now, sure, I could feel a foreign object in my back right now. Does it mean it controls my life anymore? Nope. Because the callus is built. Because I have put in the hard time and the hard work. And it's true. The harder you work at rehabbing, it's like an elite athlete. You know what I'm saying? If you want to get back on the football field, you're going to rehab your ass off till you're able to get back out there without the risk of, re-injuring or whatnot. I know that risk is always there, but at least I know to keep my core strong. And at least I put that damn bottle down. Jeez, damn, I can't even smell whiskey anymore without get the old gag reflex. It's like, man, no more nips for the kid. All that stuff comes with the territory, though. Especially when you're rehabbing your back and you're in the midst of it. There's no time to wake up with a hangover. No time at all to be half-assing it through rehab. No way.
This is from a 2019 interview Phil did with Grass Pop regarding alcohol and what it's like being sober. After that, I'll cut back to the interview where he's talking about rehab.
If I would have kept drinking the way I was drinking, I'm not sure you and I'd be standing there doing this interview. The madness and chaos, it's like that part of it, it's good to leave in the past.
Has the fun part changed? Is the what different kind of fun you have now as opposed to when you were more on
drunk and wasted? I think it's a little different for sure, but it feels more honest, feels real. When I step out on the stage and I feel this tidal wave of love, I can feel it. And it's like, it's overwhelming, man. When before I was just numb, Now I let it in. I can feel it. It's very intense.
It hits you harder.
Yeah, it does.
And I can't tell you how many different phases this back thing went through. Like at one point, when I would bend this way, you could hear an audible thudding, thud, 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 thud. And it was like, the hell is that? It felt like, kind of like when your back pops, but it wasn't not that. And I went and saw my surgeon. I'm like, put your ear up to my back right here. And I bent and he heard this noise. I said, what the hell is that, doc? He's like, I have no idea. I said, well, what is it? When is it going to go away? What's going on, man? I have no idea. Sure enough, year later, whatever, quit doing it. No more thudding, no more whatever. I don't know. It's interesting, man. It's been a heck of a journey. You learn a lot about yourself.
Later in this video, I'll touch on the Pantera reunion with Phil, Rex Brown, Zakk Wylde, and Charlie Benante, and how some people feel it's not a real reunion because Dime and Vinnie are no longer here. Now, back to Phil. Here, he discusses his influences and how he still felt like the new guy in Pantera even a few years after joining the band.
It goes back to the old, the kid who comes up to you and says, Phil, how do you make it big in rock and roll or music? It's like, the most truthful answer would be take 15, 20 of your favorite bands and rip them off to all hell. Eventually you'll find your own sound. So I would say that was the case. And for me, especially, from old radio rock, I grew up on in the 70s and the popular stuff I grew up with. Growing up with mom and her sister and dad on and off. It's such a wide variety of stuff. Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Queen. Can't leave out Kiss either. Peter Frampton, Ted Nugent, old Scorpions, and later Van Halen, very innovative for guitar work. And this elaborate David Lee Roth character. He's a baritone, and I was always a baritone, so I could match up there. When you're developing your voice and you're trying to sing these high notes and whatnot with Robert Plant out there and David Coverdale and whoever the heck was singing for a band like Deep Purple at the time, Ian Gillan or whoever. They always had these outrageous ranges. So I guess I took to David Lee Roth first and foremost, because he was a great front man and once again a baritone. But then these bands went through these massive changes, and music was going through changes. Heavy metal was going through changes, which eventually brought in what I guess would be known as hardcore music and punk rock, I guess, before that. I'm a music lover, man. And to me, every genre that actually has touched me growing up, I've taken them bits and pieces here or there, whether it be attitude, whether it be presentation, whether it be the way one guy might pronounce something or other. It's just you take from every generation, and I still learn stuff today at this advanced age, like well-aged beef. Well, you have to understand there's some very strong personalities in Pantera, and this is kind of funny, but it seemed like I was the new guy until 6 months into Vulgar Display of Power. And we had done 3 records together at that point, and I'd still meet members of the Abbott family who I'd just, met, and they're like, "Oh, you're the new guy." It's like, yeah, okay, I'm the new guy. But we were always, there was this bond between the guys, and I am talking about Pantera, all 4 of us. Dimebag and I always had this creative pushing force, and it was like, as far as being tight, that was a given. They were a tight, incredible group. But we would push each other. Stage presence, crowd interaction was always a tremendous thing. So once we got past all the bullshit, and this could send me in a whole different direction completely. When I moved to Texas in 1987, the bar band thing was still this huge thing. And I was always the youngest guy in most any band I was always in. So here I am with older guys, and not just Pantera, a band I was in before Pantera or whatnot. There was this mentality, the train of thought going into, you join a band with older guys who've been around longer and whatnot. The idea was if you played in these bars and you were this type of bar band, that I guess your chances of being discovered were better. Okay. Well, when I was 16, 17 years old, there was no scene. There was nobody that was going to discover you despite all the rules. And the rules were very strict. And I guess this is where all this that's talked about, the glammy past of Pantera and all like that. You have to understand, you could not even come close to getting the gig if you didn't look the part, if you didn't play the right cover tunes, etc., etc. One of our main strengths as songwriters and as a genre band, we did not have to play fast for the sake of speed. We didn't have to do anything for the sake of extremity. We knew that our strengths were our rhythmic shaking of the room, so to speak. We knew what moved the audience. We knew what our strengths were. So, we were a rhythmic force. When Vulgar Display came out, heavy metal production, the sound of heavy metal was going through so many changes. And we were at the forefront of this more modern sounding thing. So at the time, it was this modern sounding heavy metal, unbelievably tight, angry group. Years later, you've had so many bands that have used that same formula since then. I don't know what kids will think. So, I don't know. The legacy, what kind of legacy? Hopefully a legacy of distortion and energy that inspires and, hopefully thought of when you look at the band and the music that was released. Hopefully it was inspiring, and I know it was. So hopefully it, remains in that light.
Unfortunately, given Dimebag's death on December 8th, 2004, a complete Pantera reunion with all 4 members was never going to be possible. However, there was still the possibility that maybe a partial reunion with Phil, Vinnie, and Rex may occur. Despite the fact Vinnie publicly said he would never do it, a lot of people still hoped it could possibly happen. Tragically, that opportunity ended on June 22, 2018, when Vinnie Paul himself passed away. He died of heart and cardiovascular issues at his home in Vegas. Reflecting on Vinnie's death and how he heard the news, Phil said the following in October of 2018, quote, "I was busy rehabbing my back and I had a great day downstairs, hitting the boxing bag, stuff like that. And then I got the news about Vince, and it was just so deflating, man. Despite all of our differences, just know this. The bitterness was so harsh because it came from a place of love. You understand me on that? We loved each other so much that when things go awry in a band, it's like tripling down on negativity. It's a pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. So love each other while you can. Put all the squabbling and all the grifting and the division with your loved ones aside. I'm sick of it. Honestly, I'm tired of it. Be kind to each other." End quote. With Vinnie's death, it seemed any chance of a Pantera reunion was over. However, in 2022, it was announced that Pantera would in fact be reuniting. Phil Anselmo and Rex Brown, along with Zakk Wylde on guitar and Charlie Benante on drums. The argument has been made by some people that this isn't a real Pantera reunion, as half the members of the band unfortunately have passed away. Again, when Vinnie was still alive, Vinnie himself said he would never do it, and more so than that, he said it would be impossible, in his opinion, to ever have a real Pantera reunion, because, of course, Dimebag was gone. Now that Vinnie is gone as well, you could argue his words carry twice the weight. Thus, for some people, this reunited version of Pantera with Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante is more of a tribute. For others, however, they do consider this to be a legitimate reunion because Phil and Rex are still there. In any case, bottom line, the Pantera reunion has been a big success. They've toured and played many big shows the past few years, and as of this posting in April of 2026, they have several major shows scheduled for the future, including a few with Metallica. In 2023, on an episode of the Metallica Report podcast, Phil Anselmo reflected on the Pantera reunion himself. Quote, "It's empowering, it's incredibly beautiful, and you feel so much love when you're up there performing. And if you take it in, it's a great feeling, man. These days, me and Rex get to dig the shows more, because when we were younger, we were at war. And when we were on stage, we were just angry and at war, man. Whereas now, I don't have to break my freaking body apart anymore. I can concentrate more on singing the freaking songs. That's a relief for me." End quote. Reflecting on what Vinnie and Dimebag may have thought of the reunion, Phil said the following, quote, "The only thing I can say is I know for a fact Vince and Dime would want us to do this hands down. They would want the Pantera brand or the legacy to go on. Sometimes, you'd like to think that them old fellas are looking down on us, giving us a thumbs up." End quote. Who knows? Maybe Vinnie would in fact have changed his mind eventually at some point if he was still around and have taken part in a reunion with Phil and Rex. In any case, Phil also spoke about what it's been like touring with Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante. Quote, "It's an honor to play with them. They're the nicest freaking guys in the world, man. Zakk, he's hilarious, man. He's a sweetheart. And freaking Charlie, we've known Charlie since '87, man. It's a long time. The way Charlie plays Vinnie's parts is uncanny. At the same time, I don't think there's any drummer out there that could play the way that Vinnie did." End quote. I'm going to show you now 3 clips from my interview with Sterling Winfield, Pantera producer, and Tim Kimsey, Pantera studio engineer, where they talk about Pantera's bad breakup, Damage Plan, and Dimebag's death in the first clip. And then in the second clip, they discuss Pantera's relationship with producer Terry Date, how they'd record music in the studio, and in the third clip, they discuss the making of 5 Minutes Alone from the Far Beyond Driven record. If you want to see the full Pantera interview, it's the end screen at the end of this video. The relationship between Dime and Vinnie, during Damage Plan, was their relationship the same, or did, I guess for lack of a better word, the bitterness of how Pantera ended, did it affect them as people in any way?
Yeah, it affected all of us. We thought Pantera would live forever. It was too big, it was too powerful, it was too good to be not only destroyed, but destroyed in that fashion so publicly. And it was a huge betrayal of all of that brotherhood and the way that it happened. And what was going on with Damage Plan was that it originally started as just me and Dime in the studio, and it was going to be his solo album. Because when we got done with Reinventing the Steel tour cycle, we were in Japan, and we said, Philip was getting ready to make a down record because Philip made the demand that, hey, I'm not making another damn Pantera record until I make the next down record and I get to do something different, because he was growing weary of Pantera. So not only did that happen, but Dime and Vinnie were the ones that went to bat for Phil to get his record deal for Down 2. So they were the reason he got his deal with Elektra. And so during that space, well, Dime was going to go do his thing musically. And that's what we started on. That's what Damage Plan ended up being. But as we got further through the process with Damage Plan, and Vinnie started hearing some of the stuff we were doing, and he was like, man, I can lay some drums on that'll sound killer. Let's do this. And Dime's only stipulation was, I don't want it to sound like a Pantera record. This is my record. And he was like, fine, but let's just go do it. And so we started all working together, me and Dime and Vinnie, on those songs. And then as we came through, the next month or two, after we're still working on this stuff, here comes all this stuff on the internet of Phil and Rex talking trash about this whole thing. And we're literally sitting there looking at each other going, what is going on? What is happening? And that was the beginning of the end right there. And yeah, it changed them. And then at a certain point, they were like, we've got to move on. We have to, there's no reconciliation here. We have to move forward. And yeah, they weren't real happy about going from playing arenas back down to playing clubs, but that's what they did because they loved the music. They wanted to keep making music. And so they just kept moving forward, and that was going to be the thing. Well, we're not going to do Pantera right now. We're going to do Damage Plan. Hell, we didn't even have a name for it for the first 10 months that we were working on it. We worked on it for over a year before we released it. So yeah, it was an odd time, and it changed all of us, not just Dime and Vinnie, but me too, and a bunch of dudes that were on the original crew. And it just, it changes a lot of shit.
Were you there on tour with Damage Plan the night of Dimebag's death?
I was not. I was home. I was on that tour about 6 months before all that went down. I got to a point on the Damage Plan tour where my drinking had taken over and I didn't want to be there anymore. The beautiful thing about those guys was, hey man, if you need help or you need a break, take it. And that's essentially what happened. And I left the tour because I was not happy anymore. Me and the tour manager got into a fight, and I was tired and just beat down. And so I went home. Yeah, I was not there that night. And had I been there, who knows how my life would be right now.
Well, I can almost tell you, and not to elongate this conversation about that, but one of the things that I remember when Sterling called me that night, and I remember very specifically where I was, and the mood went from, hey, we're getting ready for, the holiday season, so on and so forth, to shit. Man, it's almost like tunnel vision. The moment that Sterling got those words out of his mouth, it's like, my whole world has now changed. I'm not anywhere as close to these guys as Sterling was, but I don't know if you remember this, Sterling, but one of the things that I said to you is, I thank God above that you weren't there.
Yeah, I remember.
Because
I was pretty obliterated, but I remember.
I think you might have been all up in that.
Oh yeah, I most definitely would have. The whole fight or flight thing. What do you do when you're faced with that? And no one knows until it's that time. So I don't know. I don't know what would have happened. And everybody says that. I'm glad you weren't there. But there's that survivor's guilt that happens.
Sure.
Lots of therapy later. I can tell you that that's just the way that was meant to be.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's nuts. When that happened, I mean, I guess Sterling, this would be a question for you. Was it a guaranteed Damage Plan was done, or was that not even something people were thinking about at the time?
I think it was a guarantee done. Just like at that point, I think it was also a guarantee that Pantera was done. Dime was the heart and soul of both of those bands. And with Vinnie included, they were the ones that came up with all of that stuff. And without those two, it never would have happened. I'm not belittling Rex or Phil or their parts in any of this. But yeah, both those two bands were completely done when that happened. And I think that it basically put the cork in a very short and powerful legacy. And also that it put the end curly Q on this will never happen again kind of thing. Any legitimate reincarnation furthering of any legitimacy to any of that, it will never happen again, because wow, yeah, they only made one of those, man. They made one Dime and that was it.
Yeah. Did Vinnie ever recover fully from Dime's death, or did that never leave him?
Never left him.
I don't think it's left any of us.
Yeah. No, it changed all of us in different ways. But no, after that, he went on to do Hell Yeah. I was there for all of that. And he got to go out and play and have the joy of music back in his life after his brother died, which he thought he would never find again, but he did. That's good. Not like that, not on that level. And I don't mean financially or successfully, but just that bond that he had with his brother musically. But yeah, that he had a hole in his heart. He was literally a different person after his brother died for the 13 years that he was still around. He was not the same person.
Yeah, it's sad. But I mean, it goes to show how close they were and how important that relationship was. So
they were not twins, but they should have been twins.
Obviously, we know what happened. If that didn't happen, if Dimebag was still with us, was Damage Plan going to be a long-term band, or was there always the thought of reuniting with Pantera eventually?
Knowing Dime and Vinnie as people, I would say that Pantera would have eventually gotten together, and it would have been Dime that would have facilitated that. Because Dime was the kind of person that didn't like holding on to that shit. And it would have eventually righted itself, I believe.
I agree with Sterling. Sterling was much closer to all of that than I was when all of that started going down. But just once again, I've said this before, the character, a lot of folk think of, Pantera being this just angry or maybe aggressive, this or that. But the truth is the I don't even know what the right word for this would be, but the human element with these guys was just impeccable. They
could have been assholes, but they weren't.
They weren't. Not ever. And I think it's fair to say Sterling and I we've encountered a few of those along the way.
Oh yeah. Hell, I encountered some yesterday.
Sorry, dude.
It never ends.
Sorry, man.
No, man, I think Dime would have totally righted that stuff. They had they're brothers. They fight. The bands fight. It's a marriage. It's a 4 or 5 way marriage, and you're gonna fight. You're gonna argue. Even the best marriages need maintenance. Even the best relationships have rough moments, and just multiply that times 4, and that's the dynamic you have in a room full of dudes that are trying to create and have a common vision. Just that alone, in and of itself, is a most difficult task. To get someone to share the same vision with another person. And if you get 4 people that share that same vision, even for a minute, that's an amazing thing.
Hey guys, this is now the part where they discuss Terry Date's relationship with Pantera and how the band approached recording music with him. If you want to see the full Pantera interview, it's the end screen at the end of this video.
You're either all in or you're not going to be a part of it. That was the work ethic. And we've got some funny stories that kind of deal with that too. You know, as much as I love Terry, the actual truth is very first day that they walk into the studio, Terry was basically like, I don't need these two guys. I don't need Sterling. I don't need Tim. We're going to be here for a while. And you know, my version of the story is that, and Sterling, correct me if I'm wrong on this, it was the guys in the band that just basically kind of went, no, these are our guys, and we want them here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not that Terry was trying to not include us. It was, he's used to working by himself without an assistant or a second engineer. And that was the way he rolled. And he was being protective of what that bubble was, you know, I think. And so not to belittle anything about Terry, because that dude is a absolute gem of a person anyways. But no, that's exactly what happened. And he was like, well, I really don't need anybody, you know, but after 5 minutes with Dime and Vinny, they were like, no, these guys, we need them here. They're part of the team. They're going to help you focus on what you need to focus on. And that's what happened, literally.
That's really cool.
And, you know, if I could add to that, and it turned out just so good, because at some point, you know, Terry needs to leave. He needs to go back and rest for the day. That's the other thing is that a lot of people forget. These sessions, Daniel, these sessions weren't, you know, 4 or 5 hours. These sessions were days. Sometimes I don't recall ever a period of time that we were with Pantera that we didn't go home at some point, but these were very long days.
Yeah, they were
12, 14, 16-hour days.
16-hour days, yeah.
And so I guess the point here was that it really kind of turned out well for everybody. Number one, it gave Sterling and I an opportunity, if you will, to take care of some of the mechanical, technical business, if you will, that Terry very easily could do, and I'm sure would have handled that extremely well. But it's like to add to that, it showed that he had confidence in us guys. I'm going back to the hotel, got to get some rest. We're going to be back tomorrow. Here's what I need to happen tonight before you leave the studio, before 7 a.m. tomorrow morning arrives. Here's the task for the day.
So would it be fair to say, if I could just jump in, so would it be fair to say, I guess your relationship with Terry, you being both of you guys, I guess it developed over the course of the time you were working with him?
Yes.
Almost immediately.
Yes. Because it took that, what Tim was just talking about, it took that stuff off of Terry's plate so Terry could concentrate on the art of mixing. You know, and the actual task, the artistic task of what needed to happen there, his role as producer, keeping that train on the tracks. Me and Tim are handling the mundane things like, you know, make sure the tape machine's calibrated, you know, if we need to edit, make sure we got what we need. Blah. This is pre-Pro Tools, you know, it's when Pro Tools was just starting to appear on the scene. So it was all analog, 24-track, 2-inch tape, and outboard gear, no plugins. You know, this was a real studio with real analog gear that breaks and has to be maintained. And so, you know, we get on the phone and call this guy because I need this piece of gear here tomorrow. You know, those kinds of things. Call Nashville, call Dream Hire Nashville, you know, and have this put on a truck. Things like that. You know, it's not as simple as it is today. You're talking, 25 years ago, you know?
To kind of chime in, I don't know that I would ever want to go back to, the days of 24-track, 2-inch tape and hurdles, things to get past with all of that. I don't know that I would ever want to go back to that. But at the same time, I think that there is we're still exploring uncharted territory when it comes to isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the engineer and the and the band, or the band members, hey, just send me the song, I'll put the vocals on at my place and I'll send it back, and and then no one's really rubbing elbows with one another.
It loses. I think that's been a very big step backwards for music in general. That's just my opinion. Yeah, I echo that too, Tim, because wow. Yeah.
Yeah, in my view, I think that I think the technology has opened so many. I think it's a net positive to technology, but the one big drawback is that now you don't need to spend years and years learning how to really master your vocals or to play a guitar or whatever it may be. You can just kind of do it programmed, which is great, but it completely kills the necessity to have a band. And I think that's been really detrimental for rock and roll specifically. You know what I mean? So it's a really double-edged sword. And I don't know, man. I would love to see a kick butt new band just blow up and get huge, but I feel like the structure of the business is not in its favor. But if a band can pull it off, it would be amazing. So fingers crossed with that one,
I totally, yes, I concur with that. Not to cut you off, Sterling, but I totally concur with that in the sense that I've always said this. And by the way, I run my business this way. I tell my students to this day, I don't do anything by myself anymore. It's not because I don't trust myself. It's not because I can't do it. It's because I really feel that other people's opinions and being able to have their input and to actually be able to talk about what it is that we're doing makes the difference. I know that I'm much better when I can bounce an idea off of, say, Sterling, for example. Hey, Sterling, what do you think about, it could be a freaking banjo part, and it might be a great banjo part, but if it's too much of it and I'm not aware that it's too much, at least I can talk to him and go, what do you think about this? And if he's going to be honest with me, he's going to, well, that sucks because it's too much. Nowadays it's like, I'm going to send you a stereo mix. You're going to put the vocals down and you'll send us the tracks, and then we'll weave it into the song that's going to be. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm old school and I remember the days of, having that camaraderie with the band, being a part, if you will, kind of the third wheel or the fifth wheel, whatever it might be, but actually participating in the in the process. And one of the things that I sincerely feel that gets lost when people start talking about making records and stuff like that, and absolutely nothing to take away from the bands that get to that point, but I think that there is a sense nowadays that gets lost in the sense that the art form of recording has been, we're literally on the verge of losing it. And I think Sterling can probably echo this. Sterling and I have recently kind of been joined back together in a instructor role, if you will. And one of the big things that I see with a lot of these guys coming through school nowadays is that they're not willing to pay the price to be able to get on the to get on the ride and to be able to ride. And the sad part about that is that they don't even know what they're missing because they've never gotten the opportunity to experience it. I think that's what digital recording has done to us all, is kind of isolated a lot of us, that would maybe typically be in the same room together. And, just speaking for myself, I miss it a lot. Just the camaraderie of being able to hang with the same people that you're recording, or to be able to break bread with, with the artist that you're going to be living with for the next 6-7 months or whatever. Point being is that, over the course of the last couple of years for me, pretty much everything that I've even remotely thought about touching has been remote. I mean, it's been very isolated.
Yeah, it definitely makes developing relationships with artists a lot different than before. Speaking of which, how did your relationship with Pantera begin, Sterling? Did it have a connection with Tim in any way?
Yeah, pretty much the same as Tim's. We were both there at the same studio at the same time when they came in to finish Far Beyond Driven in October of 93 at the Sound Lab, Dallas Sound Lab.
I think it's fair to say, Daniel, that Sterling and I both, we were big fans from the get-go before we had ever met the Abbott brothers. I had met, and I think I had mentioned this in an earlier discussion with you, that I had actually met their dad way before I ever met the Abbott brothers. So Sterling and I both kind of knew what was coming once we kind of got word, hey, the guys from Pantera are coming in, and we want to put you guys on there. I was honored to even be considered, worthy to be on a project that big.
Same.
Awesome.
Same. I knew it was going to be huge. I was a fan since high school when I lived way out in San Angelo, Texas, where I was raised, and so I had already been listening to them for years from their independent releases.
Oh, back in the glam days, eh?
Yeah, definitely. And it was, I didn't ever think in my wildest dreams I'd ever even meet them, much less work with them and live with them. So, it was a very, very exciting time for both of us to get to be part of that.
That's so cool.
And not to mention Terry Date, geez.
Yeah.
Master.
When it came down to the Far Beyond Driven record, and I think it's very fair to say this, and I may have even mentioned this before, but Terry was the glue that held all of us together.
Yeah, pretty much.
He was the mother hen, if you will.
Yeah.
We would have a pep talk by Terry. I don't know that it happened every day, but it would happen at least once a week. It's like, guys, whatever y'all do, you need to be aware that every move that you make could be it could be a huge detriment if you make a bad move somewhere. And so you got to take care. Don't be idiots out there.
Yep.
Go have fun, but we need to be back tomorrow. So don't go out and do stuff that you shouldn't be doing.
Yep.
No, for sure, man. So
And I laugh at that because we always did stuff that we weren't supposed to be doing.
Totally. I was 23 years old.
That's the fun of life, man. You gotta do.
Jeez, are you kidding?
You're told that
you're a teenager still.
I don't know about you guys, but when I was that age and I was told not to go do something, that was the very first thing that I went
immediately
100%. 100%. When you get told not to do something, even if you don't want to do it, you're doing it just because you're told not to do it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You take that and multiply it by about 20. When you tell Dimebag that you can't go do something, it's like, hold my beer and watch this. I'm gonna go do this.
You're gonna go.
That is awesome.
Gonna go.
That's so funny. So I have one more question about how the band recorded music. I know you touched on this a bit earlier, but in general, when the band would record, would they usually record off the floor together, or would they typically record in isolation?
When they built their own place, it was just a one open live room, and they would start that way. They would start by tracking live off the floor. That's how they got that feel, because they're all playing off of one another. So, and then Dime would go back and redo the guitars to match Vinnie a little better and to match himself a little bit better. But most of that you're hearing is live takes, like a live foundation for sure. Rhythmically, Rex and Vinnie most of the time were live.
And would Phil be part of that, or would he do the vocals?
No, I mean, he would be part of the writing sessions when they would write and start putting things together. But like Trendkill, he wasn't there for it all. He did all that from New Orleans. But Reinventing the Steel, he was there all the time.
So do you guys remember working on 5 Minutes Alone?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was that like?
Yeah. I was fucking.
You first, Sterling.
It all boils kind of together. It all blurs together. But no, I just absolutely loved that riff. The way that drum part was just to me was just, it dictated that whole song. That dun dun ta, to just this hammering halftime beat over Dime's guitar riff. And I just remember hearing that at probably in the control room there at Dallas Sound Lab on 110 dB, just as loud as these gigantic Westlake studio speakers would go. First of all, we had to build these big stands for them out of cinder blocks in
Really?
the control room. Yes.
And
And rig this thing up.
we were absolutely breaking every acoustic design.
Totally.
You know,
Totally. And
everything that was ever put out there is like, screw that.
yes, because that's the one thing I learned from that these guys that I will always treasure, one of the many things, but this one in particular of the whole philosophy of it's not the gear, it's the ear. And I learned how to make badass slamming music on cheap, broken, shitty gear, not name brand shit, nothing you would think would ever make an album. And that's how they lived their lives, because they started out with no money. They had to rig things together to make them work. And that's why we called Vinnie Riggs, because he was the master of putting things together that may not go together, or making things work with scraps. And I just remember those speakers in that control room. Just, we had that thing rocking and rolling, and it sounded amazing. And it was because they said, yeah, just do this. And we went and just did it, and it worked. I mean, that's what I remember about 5 Minutes Alone, was that just hearing it for the first time through those big ass speakers in the control room when we were all pretty lit, you know, having a good time, happy, drunk, and just that riff, you know, just knocking your hair back. And the other thing about 5 Minutes Alone was that I remember the day we were in the, Phil had just put vocals on it.
Okay.
And Terry had given them, you know, at the end of the day, that we would always make a cassette copy of whatever, and the guys would take it with them, listen to it on the way home on their little portable DAT machine, or their little cassettes or whatever in their cars. And, you know, the car was always the thing, and still the saying to this day, the car is the if you can get it sounding good in the car, it's you're good. And he came back up the next day after the end of the night. That night we weren't quite to mixing yet, but we were finishing up all the recording. And he had taken that clip that you see in the home video 3, where he pulls up to that junior high and says, hey, y'all want to hear some new Pantera? And the kids go crazy, and he's playing 5 Minutes Alone, and that's that mosh pit out front of the school, and the teachers are freaking out, and they're on their walkie-talkies and stuff, and they're not sure what to do. That was from, you know, 5 Minutes Alone, and the day after that song had all the parts on it, and it was complete. And him causing that mosh pit out front of that junior high that was right by his house in the neighborhood that he grew up in his whole life, just, it was like, that's the power of music. That's the power of a really, really good piece of music. It moves you. It makes crazy shit happen. It makes emotions come out that you didn't know you had in there. And so that was a pretty pivotal moment for me too, seeing those kids go crazy. And this, you know, of course, this was a couple of years before that got put in the actual home video. He videotaped everything.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So, you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you specifically about Dime and 5 Minutes Alone is the guitar solo. Like, Dime has so many iconic guitar solos, but there's something about the sound of that solo in 5 Minutes Alone which just jumps out at me. Like, I don't even know what it is technically, but it's just the sound of the guitar. I don't really recall any other Pantera song where I hear that sound. Do you guys remember recording the guitars for that particular song?
Were you in the room when he did that solo, Tim?
I don't know.
It was a pretty simple solo, and at that point, Vinnie was still recording all of Dime's guitar parts and solos. Terry would do it sometimes, but mostly it would be Vinnie. I remember Dime's tech, Grady Champion, being there, and they were making sure that the tone was right, because the tone is unique on that song. And I can guarantee you it was, all right, dude, go out there and just fry this thing out. And what he meant by that was, he always talked about fry being on the top of his overall tone. And it's just that it's like a whole other realm of distortion, a whole other upper band of harmonic distortion on top of the distortion that he already has, and he called it fry. Go out there and put some extra fry on this, and so you could, and his pick was probably not his standard
nylon
green Tortex pick that he used. This is actually one of his picks that he used.
Really?
I keep it in my studio.
That's so cool.
It wasn't that standard one. It was probably something else, like a piece of metal, like a metal guitar pick. And it made, along with the fry or the distortion pedal or whatever he had in front, was like a very abrasive
little
thing.
edgier,
It's that
normal.
Yeah, he was the master of doing things like that to make things be different, to make things sound different. And that being said, and then we probably had I remember from the mix, we had some kind of just like reverb on it as well. So those two things culminating together that's what made that sound. And again, like I was playing, I have the multi-tracks for Far Beyond Driven, and I was playing them for a friend the other day, and they were amazed at how close to the finished product that the multi-tracks actually sound. It's like the mix wasn't a whole lot of extra added stuff. It was this, know, and we're like, yeah, that's how when you were doing something and you were committing it to analog tape, it wasn't fix it in the mix. It was get it right to tape. Get it right first. Then we'll mix it, then we'll see what the mix brings out. And so, yeah, that was, I do remember there was probably something like that going on in the control room that night, because he approached each solo like its own little separate song.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. Would he kind of improv his solos, or would he write those out?
There was a couple of times he improv'd a solo, and we were like, you're keeping that. It was that first take is golden thing. Every now and then there would be one like that. I remember one on Reinventing the Steel like that, and we were like, do not touch that. And then he would come back and just do like a little bit of like, he wouldn't change the part. He would just execute a note or two better. Kind of thing. And we would be like, do not touch that. That is perfect. We're not, because there was one night I remember in particular where it was just like, hurry up. We're gonna be late for last call, what we would call last call every night, hitting the bar. And he was just like, all right, let me put a solo on this real quick so we can listen to it on the way to the bar. And he whipped out this solo real quick, and it was like, that's staying on the album. That's not going anywhere. And we kept it, note for notes. That was on Reinventing Still. I don't remember which song. And then there was another song on Damage Plan called Moment of Truth that is like a 2.5 minute long solo that is all one take.
That's cool.
One take, one first shot. By the end of that solo, when he did that, I've got a whole other story about that particular night, but that is a one take solo. But most of the time he would have his solos worked out before he came into the studio, because he would have, we had the studio there at Dime's house, the main studio. And then he had his own little, what he called a 4-track studio upstairs in his house. And he would sit up there, and somewhere there's a closet full of 4-track cassettes of him working out solos.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I had to go through a bunch of stuff to find some multi-tracks, and up in his closet, there's literally a closet where there's boxes and boxes of cassettes, and they're written on it. It says fucking Hostile solo.
That's
solo
awesome.
1, fucking Hostile solo 2, Shedding Skin solo. All the stuff that he did, and he would sit up there and construct these and work on them, and then he would come in to record. Kind of away from the demo is going to end up being the album philosophy.
Gotcha.
But again, he treated these solos like they were a song inside the song. A lot of them were meticulously worked out, and he was looking for a certain thing. Some of them were only half worked out. And then he would sit there, me and him would sit there for hours and he'd go, all right, what if I hit this with this augmented riff? Okay, what if I try it diminished? What do you think of that? What if I pick this up legato? And he was actually very musically.
That's cool.
A lot of people don't know this, but he was actually, I wouldn't say musically educated, but he was musically smart in that regard.
And I was going to add to that and also say extremely organized amongst the chaos.
Yes.
Extremely organized amongst the chaos. So what might appear to be one person's total, you got to be freaking kidding me, we're going about it this way, totally would make sense when you broke it down. Exactly what Sterling was just saying right there. If you were to go back and take a look at some of the notes that were probably written, cassettes that were done, one of my pet things with Dime was always he had that camera going 24/7, and it literally, I'm sure there are things that were caught that would have never, that were captured that we would never think a second thought about. But it's there. It's totally there. There's absolutely, in my humble opinion, total genius amongst what might appear to be chaos going on.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And then some of it was chaos for the sake of chaos. All right, let's do this. Let's plug in 10-foot pedals just to see what sound they'll make, and that's what we're going to roll with. Never to ever be touched or reduplicated ever again, even if you tried. Stuff that I would never even thought of, crazy recording scenarios, put a mic in the bathroom, and then we're going to compress that, and then we're going to run it back through a guitar speaker and then mic that. It's just crazy stuff, dude. And stuff that I even took notes on that I could never even duplicate today if I tried.
So Dime had a very producer savvy mindset. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. Him and Vinnie both. Dimes came from more of a musical side, and Vinnie's came from more of a technical side, and the two of those coming together was what helped that happen.
Which, by the way, Daniel, and I'm sure that you probably know this, but that is very, very rare to get technical and artist side where they can actually speak the same lingo and actually know what's going on. That made such a big, big difference to even those of us who were kind of, and I say this respectfully too, but those of us who were on the outside kind of looking in on their bubble for that period of time.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, you guys were talking a little bit earlier about the relationship between Dime and Vinnie creatively. Was one of them more the leader than the other, or were they kind of equal in that sense?
Totally equal.
Yeah.
Totally equal. No one dominated each other. They worked as very much symbiotically.
Dimebag Darrell was killed on stage during a concert on December 8th of 2004. On the 10th anniversary of his death in 2014, Billboard magazine published an interview with Jerry Cantrell. Jerry and Dimebag were close friends and had known each other longer than Jerry even knew his own bandmates in Alice in Chains. In this interview, Jerry talks about Dimebag's death, his relationship with Dimebag, and more. Quote, I had already heard about Dimebag before I met him. I had heard stories about this kid who was so tight that he kept winning this contest in Texas every year for the best new guitar player. He won it so many times they kicked him out and made him a judge. Then, I graduated in '84 and was going to winter semester of college. And then I got the bright idea to put school off for a year and to try to put a band together with a bunch of buddies of mine. So we drove to Dallas in a van and got jobs. We jammed and went to clubs at night. One of the clubs we went to was a place called Cardi's in Houston. They had rock bands all the time. I saw Yngwie Malmsteen, Talus, all sorts of cool bands. Pantera was one of the bands I saw there. I remember talking to Dime after the show just about gear and about how much I enjoyed how he played. I thought he was an amazing guitarist, and he turned out to be an even better person. That started a long, long friendship. I remember talking to Rex Brown, Pantera's bassist, and Dimebag's older brother Vinnie Paul that night too. There are certain guys that you run into and you just know. You just know that guy's going somewhere. Lane Staley was one of those guys for me as well. With Dimebag, he wasn't any different in the center of the room with you or the center of an arena with thousands of people. He was a really genuine person. He was fun to be around. I had so many good times with him. And I had some bad times too, where it would be about picking each other up. I'd get to see him regularly out on the road. The arcs of our careers were fairly similar. Cowboys From Hell came out in 1990. Facelift came out in 1990. Vulgar Display was in 92. Dirt was in 92. End quote. Jerry was then asked the following question. How did you hear that he had been murdered? This was Jerry's response. Quote, I don't remember that exact moment, but I know I got on a plane immediately. All of us in Alice in Chains, Sean, Mike Inez, and me went straight to Dallas to be with Vinnie and support him. We'd been through losing somebody, losing Lane 2 years earlier, so we had kinda been there. End quote. Vinnie Paul died from heart-related complications on June 22nd, 2018. A few days later, on June 27th, 2018, Jerry Cantrell published an article for Rolling Stone magazine where he spoke about his relationship with Vinnie Paul and some of his history with Pantera. Quote, I met Vinnie and Dime in '85, 33 years ago. That's a trip, man. Back then, I had quit college with a couple of buddies of mine and was doing asbestos abatement all around the Dallas and Houston area, where I lived for about a year. We got paid really well to do it because it's a crappy job, but what we would do is we'd work all day and then we'd go to clubs at night and check out bands. So actually, I've known Vinnie and Dime longer than I've known the guys in my own band. I didn't meet Lane, Sean, and Mike until I was 21. I was 19 when I met Vinnie. That's a long time, man. There were a lot of parallels between our two bands, and we always got along. We were brothers. I'd always see Vinnie and Dime when I was off the road. My dad is from southeast Oklahoma, and I'd always visit him for Christmas. It's easier to fly into Dallas than it is into Oklahoma City. So, every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, like clockwork, I'd roll in and hang out with Vinnie and Dime in Dallas before I headed out to the ranch in Oklahoma. And then I hit him again on the way out. Even after Vinnie moved out to Vegas, he'd come back to Dallas and we get together. I go deer hunting with my dad, and we get a deer at Thanksgiving. By Christmas, we'd be into sausage, and so my dad would always have me drop off some deer sausage at Vinnie's before hitting the airport. I always look forward to that time in Dallas, because with both of those guys, Dime and Vinnie, it was always an adventure. You didn't know where it was going to end up when you got on their train, but you knew it was going to be fun and it was going to be interesting. And we had a lot of good times, man. I remember seeing the dent in the Stanley Cup that went into Vinnie's pool. When the Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup, they brought it over to his house, and they were trying to launch it from the upper balcony into the water. But it didn't quite make it. I remember one time, Dime stole my car, and somebody detailed it with stickers and all sorts of flames, put cow horns on the hood. It was fun stuff, you know. Vinnie and Dime, they both had such a great sense of humor. At the same time, Vinnie was a guy who was extremely driven. A smart guy who could think on a lot of different levels, not just rocking out, but also about business. I think early on, he was probably the guy who handled a lot of that stuff. He was a smart cookie, and he was a true fan of rock and roll like myself. That's why we both wanted to do it. We wanted to do what our heroes did, and do it well, at the top level you could do it at. Vinnie did that. Pantera were a revolutionary band for metal, and he completely influenced a whole generation of drummers. The way he played, the way he sounded. He had a kind of industrial sound to his drum. Nobody else was like him. And that guy's meter was just spot on. He was a machine. He was a guy who achieved his dreams and worked his butt off to get there. And he always tried to have a good time doing it. And he and Dime were always really great with their fans. No matter the circumstance or how crappy they might be feeling, they wouldn't miss an opportunity to take a picture with somebody or have a shot with them. And you know, when Dime was killed, that was such a shock to all of us. But the fact that Vinnie had to live with the vision of that, of seeing it happen, it still haunts me to this day. I can't even get my mind around that. But he had his own path. I heard Vinnie had passed when Alice in Chains was in Copenhagen on our European tour. We always gave a shout out to Lane and Mike Starr when we played Nutshell, and at our next show, we dedicated it to Vinnie. To me, personally, Vinnie was one of the few people in my life, and there's only a handful of them, where it doesn't matter if I don't see you for a year, or 2 years, or 10 years. It's always consistent. Vinnie was always consistent. He was someone I could rely on, a friendly pair of eyes. Every time you look in them, they look the same looking back at you. We've been moving so fast out here on the road that I don't think it's even really sunk in for me. Today, we're in Zagreb, Croatia. It kills me that I won't be there for Vinnie's service, but my family is going to go and represent.